What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are starting a brand new series. So after building all of my cars, we've built a couple Grand Cherokees, a Wrangler, we've helped friends build vehicles. We have so many spare parts laying around. I figured this would be a really cool series to document our progress here and what we're going to be doing. I have taillights, switch panels, entire grills, and so much more. We have tons of parts laying all over the place, and I was looking at the values of these, and some of them are worth quite a bit of money. So here's what we're going to do. I went ahead and opened up an eBay store. I know the fees are going to be a little bit rough on there, and eventually we'll probably change to a website. However, we're going to get started on eBay, and we're going to list the parts that we have. So we're going to start this with no cash up front, just the spare parts that I have laying around my yard. So we're going to list all these parts that I showed you just now, and plenty more that are back there. We're going to keep a running total, and you guys will be able to choose what we do with that money, whether we go to the junkyard and try to buy parts there, flip them for more money, or refurbish them and then sell them, or whether we go out and just buy a whole parts Jeep, part it out, document that entire process, list all the parts, and show you guys exactly how it's done. So to get started today, we're going to list some of the easier parts that I have that are going to be very easy to ship. I think shipping is going to be a little bit tricky to figure out how to ship some of that bigger stuff on pallets or something like that. So we're going to start with some of the smaller stuff to get it out of the way. So getting started, we actually have some of my JKU dash set up. So we've got the trim panel that goes around the gauge cluster. Now I did look online and these aren't selling for a crazy amount, but it's just sitting in the garage. We have the gauge cluster itself. These are going for a surprising amount, especially when you know the mileage. I don't, so we're going to list it as we're unsure of the mileage. And then we also have my taillights. Now, one thing I do know is clean photos make a huge difference on listing. So we're gonna go ahead and clean all these things up before we get to listing. All right, so I went ahead and took my pictures. I didn't really know how to record that process because I needed my phone to take the pictures. So we went ahead, we have the pictures on my phone. And we're gonna go ahead and set up the eBay listings now. So my game plan as far as pricing is going to be pretty much a couple dollars less than everybody else and hope that makes the sale. And some of the parts I'm not sure if they're gonna sell very well, like that trim piece for the dash. I don't really know if that's gonna sell well. That doesn't really seem like a part that you would break or need replacements of, but who knows? All it takes is one person to need it and we make a sale. But I'll go ahead and put my screen while I'm making the listings up here for you guys to watch. All right, so here we have the gauge cluster. Now I was actually surprised at how much this was worth. It's about $150 seems to be the average selling point. A little bit more than that, but like I said, we're gonna take a couple dollars off and try to make our sales a little bit quicker. I'm figuring if we move a lot of parts, we'll make a lot more over time. But we're going to go ahead and click list now and we'll get this thing up there. And just like that, our first listing is up. Now I'm curious to see how long some of these things take to sell. I think we're going to have to find parts that don't sit for too long and I don't really have room to keep inventory here too much. So we're going to have to see how that goes. My game plan as far as listings goes is it's going to take a while, but we're going to figure out what parts will move pretty quickly. I'm planning for maybe under 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Get them moving, get them out, and get them shipped. We'll try to move quantity of parts. Now, if we can take a couple dollars off, yes, we won't be making as much. However, that won't really matter if we're moving a whole lot more of them than other people. So we still will be making quite a bit of money in the long run if this works out. Now, if you are an eBay expert, I know a lot of people do this. Let me know in the comments if I'm messing something up here. I don't really know. This is my first time doing it, so we're gonna give it a try. All right, now we have the gauge cluster bezel. Now, I'm not sure how well this one is gonna sell. This is one of the ones that I'm not so sure on, and I think would probably sit for a while. However, we have it listed. Also, we can promote these listings. I'm not sure if that's really worth it. It's about 12%, it looks like. Let me know in the comments if you guys have ever promoted your listing and how that worked out for you. And I went ahead and threw up the other listings. So we've got the taillights, we've got the radio, we've got the gauge cluster like bezel, and then we have the gauge cluster itself. I'm interested to see which one of these sells first. Now, another thing that seems to sell really well is these JKU Freedom panels from pretty much any year. So as you guys know, I have a JKU. And I actually have two hard tops for it, so I have four of these, so two of them can go, and I wouldn't really care. But these things are selling for around $400 to $450 per panel. So let's say we lose 150 per on fees, we still are looking really, really good if we sell this. All right, guys, it is a new day, and I am excited to announce that we have made our first sale. Now, if you guys were curious of which item sold first, it was actually the gauge cluster. We went ahead and listed that, and it just sat there. That was the one that was getting the most views out of everything. Some of the other ones, like that bezel I was talking about, hasn't really gotten a ton of views, but it seemed like this gauge cluster got a lot of them, so that might be something we keep an eye out for in the future that we can sell pretty quickly. That being said, it did take about 2 weeks to sell, but that really wasn't that bad because that took no work besides the 2 minutes it took to list it, really. But that sold for $149. So we'll go ahead and update our chart now and show you guys how much money we have. We did lose a decent chunk to fees, unfortunately. That was the problem with eBay. Their fees are a little bit crazy. However, you have to account for their fees kind of make up for that advertising cost you would have if you had a normal website. Advertising is very expensive, and that would add up to probably around the same amount for fees, and you wouldn't really be guaranteed all that audience. On eBay, you're uploading a product and millions of people can see it right away. Before we update our chart, let's go ahead and get this packaged up, boxed up, and ready to go. Get a shipping label ready to print, and I'm going to show you guys a little trick to get cheaper shipping. I've been using it for my businesses for a while now. Not sponsored, but it has probably saved me thousands of dollars over the years, so I'm going to show you guys it. It's this website called Pirate Ship. They give you much better pricing, and you can still use UPS, FedEx, you can use USPS. And for example, we have the USPS and it's 1022, whereas eBay quoted us like $21 to ship this thing. So that cut shipping cost in half. And now let's go ahead and print out that label. All right, so I'm not going to show you guys the shipping label because it would give you guys my address and the person who bought its address. We're not going to do that, but we did get it all packaged up and ready to go. I'll go ahead and drop that off at the post office with some other packages I have. But another tip is if you didn't know and you schedule it through Pirate Ship, you can actually schedule pickups with the post office. You just set it outside, tell them where it's going to be, and they'll come pick it up for you. You don't really have to do anything. But it's time to update our chart. Okay, so it sold for $182 after you added in shipping and taxes. Now that's before fees. Fees, after shipping and everything like that, we're down to about 142 after fees and then about 132 after shipping. So that puts our total at $132 that we have to spend from here on out in order to buy more parts, more Jeeps, anything like that. Now, we're not going to get a Jeep with $132. More than likely, we may get lucky on Facebook, but I think we're going to need about $500 to get a Jeep. That's also not running and pretty much a piece of junk. However, we might be able to scrap $400, $500 off of it and then part the Jeep out a little bit more. So like I said, you guys get to pick what we're going to do with this money in order to make it more. However, here's my idea, and you let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. I think we take our $132 and we head to the junkyard. From there, we're going to look at a lot of Grand Cherokee parts like WJs, since I know a lot about those. Most Wrangler stuff seems to sell really, really well. However, my junkyards near me never have Wranglers, so if we find one somehow, we'd obviously get some parts off that. I don't think we're going to find one realistically. And then we've got XJs. XJ parts seem to sell really, really well. And then I'm also going to keep a look on Facebook Marketplace to see if we can get any really, really good deals. However, with that, we're going to have to add in gas and all of those kind of things when we're traveling to places. So I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think the junkyard is the move with our new $132 total, or do you think something else? And if it's something else, you let me know down in the comments. And then in the meantime, I'm also going to list those Freedom panels. I think we're going to list those for about the average sale price. I have been looking at sale comps on these, not just what they're listed for, but what they're actually selling for. And we'll go ahead and get those listed up. And if we can sell those, I think we'll have enough to get a somewhat decent parts Jeep, which will really open up this challenge for us. With a parts Jeep, I think we'll be able to make a ton of money just selling all those little parts off of it. We'd probably get an XJ or a WJ as a parts Jeep because there's quite a few of those around and they're relatively cheap if we're being honest. One thing I did want to mention before this video ended is as far as updates on this video, I can't really guarantee like, oh, we're going to have an update on this every month, every week, or anything like that. I'm going to try for monthly updates on this series. However, it all depends on when things are going to sell. I'm not going to waste your time and make an update video if nothing's sold and sit here for 10 minutes telling you that nothing's sold. We're going to wait until something actually happens. We have change. Like I did with this video, it took about 2 to 3 weeks to get it fully filmed, edited, a product sold, and an update. So there's not really a guarantee of when the next episode's coming out. However, I can guarantee you that there will be a bunch of episodes after this. This is a really cool series in my opinion, and I'm actually going to enjoy it. I really like building businesses behind the scenes. That's not really something I've been able to share with you guys much because it doesn't really overlap with my content. However, this kind of does, and I think this will be really, really fun. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you have any tips or things you would like to see us do in this series with our $132 budget, make sure you guys go ahead and comment it down below. I'll try my best to do it if it's realistic. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.